Welcome back to our bonus episode, which is released every Thursday, and our main episode is every Monday evening. It's me, Julie Haynes.
And me, Brenda Dennehy.
Okay, so on our bonus episodes, we read a dilemma and then both myself and Brenda, we kind of hash through it. So we have our first one here and it reads, Hi Julie and Brenda, loving the podcast. I have a bit of a dilemma that I'd like your opinion on. A couple of months ago, I found out that my best friend's boyfriend had been cheating on her. I found out from my current partner, who was friends with him at the time. He asked me not to say anything, but as she was my best friend of over 10 years, I felt it was unfair to keep her from her, especially because they were in such a serious long-term relationship. She was absolutely devastated, but at the same time was grateful that I told her. She broke it off with him at first, but then ended up getting back together with him a couple of days later. He had convinced her that me and my partner had made the whole thing up, and we haven't talked since. Did I do the right thing by telling her? What would you guys do if you were in a similar situation? Hands down, fucking tell her.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah? Would you? I can't believe you're agreeing on it with me.
I actually am.
Yeah.
Because, again, you know me now, if there's something going on in my head, I'd have to say it.
So would you go to, like we say it was me? Would you come to me and be like, John the dog?
I'd have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it as such like that. You know what I mean? I'd be kind of more kinder around it, you know?
Absolutely. So I do think she did the right thing. I think I don't know if the girl is just like her friend is protecting herself now by not talking to her and she feels like a bit of a fool, but just absolutely in love with this fella, like.
Yeah, I had actually a friend last night, she was messaging me. She spent the whole day giving out about her fella, non-stop, right? So sick of him. And then, like, all of a sudden they slept together or whatever and everything's whitey again. And I was just like, he spent the whole day
fucking talking to you.
And then I was just like, oh my God. And I'm all for that because I'd be going on about stuff all the time. And then all of a sudden, everything's grand again. But I remember I was going out with a guy back when I was 18, 19. And I'll never forget, I was only thinking about this during the week. My friend, she had actually seen him in a club in Mill Street, shift someone else, right? And she told me, right? And I was drinking at the time, whatever. So, you know, I didn't have my wits about me too much. And he was denying it, right? But she saw him. She witnessed him. She told me there's no way she'd make it up, right? And the girl he actually shifted came up and told me. And I was like, no. And I believed him.
Yeah, that's because you were young. And
how stupid. And then I nearly fell out with her. I got cross with her, and then it happened with another friend.
Fell out with who? The friend that's seen?
My friend who told me. Then the friend was telling me as well that, he had tried it on with her. And then I was thinking, she's totally imagining it. But then after a while, I was like, no, this guy has actually a pattern. He's trying it on with my friends, and then he's gone off with other girls in a nightclub. I'm the idiot here. Whereas for a while, I doubted my friend.
No, yeah, you were. Yeah,
do you know, I was such.
You were protecting yourself, and that's what we
myself.
do. We protect our hearts.
Yeah,
and stuff
would
like that.
I do it now at my age, nearly 40 years old? I believe my friend. I wouldn't want to. I'd be absolutely gutted. But who would you believe?
I'd believe my friend now. But again, like, if I was a bit younger, I would be like lying to myself, like, no, that didn't happen.
You wouldn't want to believe it.
You wouldn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
And you're like, she's only making it up. She's jealous of us because her and her fella are now finished.
Yeah.
So you'd be telling yourself all these lies just to protect your heart.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the friend is doing. But I do think the girl that wrote into us that told her friend that your man was doing the dog on her, I think she did do the right thing.
But you think there's any way that they can salvage the friendship, the two friends, or do you think it's...
You know, when I was living in Australia, I was with this fella and I came home to Ireland for a holiday and we were living together and I was living with my friends as well out in Australia and they all went out as I was home in Ireland and I got a Snapchat the next day that my friend that I was living with slept in the same bed as my boyfriend, like.
Oh, God.
Now, nothing happened.
But no.
But because I was so fucking stupid and so in love with your man. I was odd. They ruined my holiday first of all when I was coming Ireland, right? And then I went back. Obviously, I had to move back into the house. Like, that was my house I was living in. Like, I was a small bit odd, but then I got over it.
And then did you say anything to her? Say anything to him?
Nah.
But nothing did happen.
Nothing. And see, that's the thing. There was like fucking 6 of us living in the house. And like, all 5 of them, like, because I was crying at home in Ireland, whatever, and they all rang me and they'd be all my friends. Like, really nothing fucking happened. They just...
Were they drunk and they ended up in the bed?
And they had the clothes on, like...
I know, yeah, but you'd still be like, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because a friend of mine, she got very odd and I thought it was an overreaction. Years ago, a guy that she had been going out with, they're not going out with each other anymore and they hadn't been with each other for years, but they were on friendship terms.
Yeah.
And I met him on a night out and I took a picture with him and she got so fucking at him.
And I would as well with you. If that was my ex and you were out and like,
But they were on good terms and it was all over, and I was actually friends with him as well.
well, it'd be different if you're friends with him. But if you knew him through me, I'd be like, fuck off, Brenda. Like,
But it was totally like you're on good terms. It's actually over for years. She was with someone else. He's with someone else. I'm friends with him.
Yeah, well, it's different now if you're friends with him. But if I was with John, we say for a couple of months or years, whatever, and then you bumped into him in a pub and you got a selfie, I'm like, are you all right?
But if you were, we'll say no, I'm just thinking if you were friends, I'd just be like, all right, yeah. I shouldn't
Oh
see.
no, I fucking snap.
I wouldn't see if you were friends with him. I wouldn't snap. But see, that's I suppose people
That's
react.
the difference between
But
me and you.
you know what? You snap. But the one thing with me is I get over things very easily. Whereas there's some people,
I get over things very easy as well, but you have to talk through them. I don't. Then I just have to go home and have a cup of tea and grand. And then I'll ring you and be like, hey, how are you? And you're like, no, sit down here and we have to talk about this. I'm like, I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But you're like, no, we have to talk about this. And then we have
I'd
to
have
talk
stuff
about
rallying going around in my head.
But then I get fucking hot-headed again and I'm like, and then I hangs up and then she won't be ringing back. Let's talk about this. I'm like, can we not just not talk about it and move on? Anyways, that's the difference between myself and Brenda.
Yeah, but
no, you did. Back to the fucking dilemma. You did the right thing. I think the friend though was just protecting herself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We've given examples there, like situations we've done that we've protected ourselves.
Absolutely.
You're protecting the heart.
You protect the heart, and
You make there's no woman or no man who's made an absolute tit out of themselves when they're growing up in relationships.
Absolutely no.
Like you look back, you're like, Jesus, what a clown.
It's not till you look back. Yeah, true.
So our second dilemma. Hi girls, love the podcast. Wondering if you could give some advice with this situation. My partner and I built a house recently and my father-in-law seems to think it was him and his son who built the house together. We always had a good relationship, but since the build, things are rocky and we had so many fallouts during the build and any work to be done, he just presumes he will be helping. He rocks up whenever he feels like it, mostly at weekends. My partner works away midweek, which makes our time together at the weekend precious. I'm really feeling as if I'm being disrespected. If I speak or ask a question, he just talks over me because I'm a woman and I know nothing. My partner is in a difficult situation because it's his family, but something has to give or I'll be selling up before I crack up. Any advice would be great. We can't possibly drop any more hints towards him. I have a friend and they built right next door to her fellas and she's the biggest regret she ever had.
Yeah, I believe that.
Biggest regret. The family come over and she gets on with all the family, but they just swan in. They just swan in and like, what can you say?
I know.
And they, even when I would call, they'd see me coming up and they'd come in as well. They'd be like,
do they knock at the door?
No, they just walk in.
Yeah,
but like, would you see me coming up and you still walk in knowing that your friend is there? That now has been that's overstepping the mark.
Yeah.
But regarding this, obviously, it's the father-in-law. And
I'm actually surprised it's the father-in-law. No, normally it's like the mother-in-law, isn't it?
Well, I feel he probably thinks it's half his house. And knowing this, it might be on their land as well.
Yeah.
Which people say is never a good idea.
I wouldn't. Would you?
No.
If you met a fella now and he was like, oh, I've plotted land next to my parents to build.
I'd rather pay for it myself.
I would as well.
No.
Yeah, same.
No way. They think they'd have free reign.
Yeah.
All the time coming in. No, not everyone would. Not everyone would. Do you know what I mean? Like my brother lives in the same village. Well, it's different. He lives in the village, whatever. But my mother would never swan into my brother's house without asking.
True.
You know, she'd never land on ever or anything like that, you know.
She'd ring ahead like.
Oh, she'd ring ahead. Of course she would.
Yeah, my mum would ring ahead to me as well. Like she'd never just rock up at my
No, I don't like that. Then I need a warning.
I do as well, yeah.
But I suppose regarding this, like, is it coming from a good place? Does the father want to help? You have to see it that way as well.
See, that's it as well. And like, I think men sometimes they don't think the way we do. But her last sentence there, we can't drop any more hints towards him. And so I think the husband knows as well that he's kind of overstepping the mark, the dad.
Yeah.
So at least for that.
Well, I think it would be up to the son to say something, not her.
Yeah, I would as well.
Because
I would ask her husband to say something to his own father.
Yeah, which is in a very difficult part as well, you know.
But I think it's a man's thing as well, because I remember when my dad was alive, he'd come down to my house in Carriglane and like, he would never sit down for a cup of tea, or if he had a cup of tea, he'd be walking around the house, he'd be like, oh, you'll have to get that fixed there. Now show me the screwdriver there. He'd be just automatically trying to fix things. And you know what? And I think he just came from a nice place, like.
Yes.
Or like if we went to anybody's house, my dad's walking around looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Do you know, he doesn't mean it in a bad way or try to overstep the mark, but I just think that's a man's thing as well.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be fucking weak if any man came into my house.
You'd be delighted.
There's a shelf over there that needs hanging. Will I do it? I'd be fucking weak if I was there. But I get it.
You probably get the Amazon driver, don't you, to work for you. Oh, jeez, I'll never forget the dress.
The giraffes will never live.
Oh,
that one.
no. And then the fella with the milk carton and the toolbox, stop.
Oh,
Don't
no,
you get me going,
crying out
Jule.
because
You
I've
get
seen
me
him
going.
walking his dog.
Yeah. Oh, stop.
Yeah.
It's a small dog.
No, big fella.
Okay. If it was a small dog, no, I would have been getting the tissues out crying.
Yeah, I know. No, he's big fella.
No. Yeah, I suppose I would say get the son to say it.
Yeah, I would as well. And I think as well the house is probably just built, so it's a bit of a novelty here now as well. I think like after a couple of weeks I'd say the
the girl that I'm friends with, honest to God, she was talking about selling up. She couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. That's it. Like they give you the land and you're delighted up with a plot of land there, save me 40, 50 grand, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, it's our land. We give it to you. We're going to call over there now.
Yeah, and come here, if anyone's in a similar situation, email into lor@goloudnow.com.
Yeah, we love the dilemma, don't we?
we love an old dilemma. And if you're in the similar situation to this girl, like, you know, if you got a plot of land or whatever off the in-laws, we'd love to hear from you.
Also, actually, speaking of families, this one is more of people's opinion. It's actually very interesting, right? So, starts. I have a colleague who constantly brags about going on holidays, the most recent being a cruise. What gives me the ick is that not only does she only travel with her parents several times a year, she also shares a room with them at 26 years of age. As anyone who has been on a cruise will know, the rooms are not big, and I just can't imagine sleeping in a single bed right next to my mother and father in a double room for 1 week. I'd understand in exceptional circumstances, but she's working full time and as a grown adult, at the very least, would you not pay for a separate room? My own son is nearly 20 and I wouldn't expect him to sleep next to me and my husband. I reckon personally I'd get over sharing a room with my mother if I had to, but with my father too and for a whole week, absolutely no way. All of us get a major ick when she starts to brag, but I'd love to know you and your listeners' opinions.
Would you share a room with your mum and dad for a week?
I go on holidays with the mother and the father, and I have, but to share the room with them, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, I don't think.
No.
But saying that, when my dad was alive and they'd be in bed in the mornings, would I jump into the bedroom next to them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at my big age, like I'd still jump into the bed next to two of them. But would I share a holiday room? No. No. Did I?
Yeah, it says it's a free holiday, and if it was a free holiday on a cruise, we'll say no, if your dad was still alive and it was your dad and your mom and they were like, listen, we're going on a cruise around the Mediterranean, we're going to the Bahamas, all this, but we're all staying in the one cabin, the one room.
Oh, I sleep in the middle of them, two of them. They're free and I go to all these places.
You see, this is it. When you're going on a free holiday. Whereas my sister and I love going on holidays with my mother and father.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I'm always noticed that I'm very grateful that they're both still around to be able to do it. We would stay with them when we'd get an apartment, maybe. We'd usually get our own place, but then if we got an apartment, separate rooms, obviously.
Yeah.
But whereas if the mother and father know, like, listen, we're going off there to Vegas, New York, California, I probably like, can you throw in a bed there? I probably would be if it was free.
Yeah, absolutely, same.
You know, so I know what you're saying. I suppose, I don't know, it's the sound of a cabin or something
and you think there's no windows and it does
no windows,
seem
you're
a bit
stuck with them and
claustrophobic, like.
Not the same bed, but I couldn't in the same bed. I feel a bit, not that like...
Would you stare? No, she has her own bed, like it's a single bed. I feel as well that on holidays you're out all day long. It's just somewhere to lay your head. I think I'd get over it actually the more I think about it.
Well, it's not as if... Oh, no, I was not going to say that.
As if they're riding.
I was going to say something like that. There's something wrong now if your parents are going to be doing that in front of you.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't, like, do you know.
See, that's the thing. They wouldn't be. They just wouldn't. It wouldn't be happening, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, wouldn't the same bed? Do you know what? For me, it would depend on the holiday.
It would depend on the size of the room as well. Look, a cabin could be quite small.
Yeah.
If there was no windows, I think I'd get a bit claustrophobic. But if it was a big, kind of like studio apartment over in Spain, I'd get over it.
Yeah, or even an apartment where like you had the like sliding doors, you know, one place is the room there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would definitely depend on the size of the room. But yeah, I wouldn't give me the ick at all.
Depends on circumstances. Whereas I know what she means. Like, why aren't you paying for the holiday yourself at 26 years old when you have a full-time job? Listen, if you can get away with it, why not?
Absolutely.
You know?
I'd be definitely taking my mum and dad offer up on a free holiday.
So listen, if you're listening there, Nora Dennehy, you could take me on a holiday there. Yeah, so if we want to hear your opinions on that as well, would you be happy to share a room with your parents who are on holidays? Let us know, lor@goloudnow.com, or else you can message me on my Instagram page, Brenda's Bits, and Julie on hers.
Twins and me.
So we will chat to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.